After a very short period of time, I recognized that it doesn't make sense to push the GEDA philosophy from Germany into the US subsidiary because that would have simply failed. Yeah.
Why not?
I think there is a different mentality. There is from a supplier perspective, from a customer perspective, way different expectations. And in my opinion, the US people, business people, customers, they don't really like to be taught, so to speak. Yeah. And that the European people are coming over and telling US people how business works. Yeah, that doesn't make sense.
Europe builds it. America scales it. Welcome to Transatlantic Titans, the show where bold and visionary Europeans show how they are making it big in America. From challenges to lessons learned and massive opportunities, we bring you the people and ideas shaping the future of transatlantic business. And now, here is your host, the lawyer for Europeans making it big in America, Manny Schoenhuber.
Welcome to Transatlantic Titans, the show about Europeans making it big in America. I am your host, Manny Schoenhuber, and I'm very excited to welcome our next Transatlantic Titan to the show, Stefan Nitbaur. Stefan, thank you very much for joining us today. Very excited to have you.
Manny, thank you so much for the invitation.
Great. Stefan, let's start at the beginning. Tell us a little bit more about yourself. Who are you? What's your business? What's happening?
Well, my name is Stefan Nitbaur. I'm 35 years old, working for the company GEDA, the head of finance of the GEDA Group, and working with the company since 2015, till my first employer. Feel very satisfied.
Right. And GEDA, that's a German company, right? So you're right now looking at your background, based in Germany.
I'm based in Germany. The company's headquarters in Germany. We are 1.5 hours away from Munich. And to give you a bit of an insight, what we are doing, we are producing construction and industrial elevators. Meaning from small ladder lifts where you can carry or bring up solar panels to the top of the roof, up to closed cabins. You can go up to 1,200 feet. And we also do customized elevators, for example, for oil rigs. Yeah. This is what GEDA is doing, and why we are here, obviously, is we have a subsidiary in Houston, Texas.
So, yeah, let's talk about that a little bit, and maybe also your personal connection to the US, because as I remember it, you also spent a significant amount of time in the US in your prior role before you qualified, I guess, to become the head of finance for the entire group.
That's right. That's right. So I started back in 2015, and in 2021, I was sent over to the US, to the subsidiary, because we had significant changes over there in the subsidiary, and we did a restructuring of the company, and that's why I was sent over to take over the role of the general manager, and I was in the US for almost a year.
How was that experience in general? Like, have you spent some time in the US before? Obviously visited, but from a business perspective, going from 1.5 hours away from Munich to Houston, Texas, or south of Houston, Texas, how has that transition been for you personally?
Different animal, a complete different animal. So I was in the US for vacation, round trips, things like that. But from a business perspective, of course, I was in the US for 1 week or 2 weeks. Yeah, but that was for a longer period of time, and that's, I think, very, very important and exciting that you get to know the US from a business perspective. And in my opinion, it's fairly different from the European business behavior, from the European business market. Yeah, it's a different continent. Yeah. And I think that speaks about itself.
Yeah, and you said you spent a year here as a general manager.
Yeah.
From that business perspective and the differences in business, how have you adapted? How have you learned? And maybe what are you using now in your role back in Germany that not only you or the group of companies benefits from, but also the US subsidiary now that you've done your job and turned the whole ship around?
I think it's the understanding. Yeah, the understanding of the expectations in the US. I think it's different from a people perspective, it's or from a staff or an employee's perspective, and of course as well from a customer perspective. Yeah, there are different expectations from employees in the US and also from customers in the US towards the company, and I think that was it for and that could be very, very difficult for European people or business people to understand that there might be or there is another expectation or another solution. Yeah, because especially European people and managers think that that's the only way to go. Yeah, how they are doing it, but the US are expecting
My way or the highway?
that's right. That's right. And the US, the customers, they are expecting different things. Employees are expecting different things, and of course, you have to adapt. For example, yeah, I told you that we wanted to, or we did a restructuring of the company, but after a very short period of time, I recognized that it doesn't make sense to, push the European or the GEDA philosophy from Germany into the US subsidiary because that would have simply failed. Yeah.
Why not?
Like I said, I think there is a different mentality. There is from a supplier perspective, from a customer perspective, way different expectations. And in my opinion, the US people, business people, customers, they don't really like to be taught, so to speak. Yeah, and that the European people are coming over and telling, US people how business works. Yeah, that doesn't make sense because nobody wants to have that.
And then now, maybe fast forward to today. Obviously, you said you did a little bit of a reorganization,
Yeah.
financial and otherwise. How's your U.S. subsidiary performing? Are you satisfied with it? Is it has it improved a lot, or are you still a little concerned about the U.S. market? Or and maybe on that note, what do you think from your perspective in your industry? What's the strength of the U.S. market?
First of all, we are very satisfied with the performance of the US subsidiary. The North American market is for us the biggest market next to Europe, of course, because just imagine the labor or the wages are fairly high compared to other countries. So the return on investment of an elevator is pretty high in that case. So very, very strong market for us. Performance of the subsidiary is very good right now. It improved tremendously, and I think there is no limit for growth in the US. I think the purchasing power in the US is very, very high. Make what we recognized is as soon as you create some credibility, that as soon as you create trust, as soon as, for example, customers are shaking your hands and you are making a deal, of course you need to treat them well. And I think this is business wise throughout the whole world the same. I think we have that in Europe where we treat our suppliers, our customers equally. We want to treat them with respect and we want to have long-term partnerships. Of course, that is something we wanted to bring into the US as well, because we are only in the B2B business actually. So we have distributors throughout the whole world and we have distributors throughout the whole US because just simply out of Houston, it would be impossible to serve the whole US market. And the success we are having is that every single partner, distributor, a dealer we established is still with us. Yeah. And it's a give and take. Of course, it's like in a marriage. Yeah. So this is, in my opinion, one of the most important things in the US, and what customers in the US, you need to have a very, very fast reaction time, especially on the service side of things. Yeah. And this is different in the US than in Europe, in my opinion, because here and there European companies, customers, they understand that there is a waiting time. whereas the US customer maybe understands it but doesn't want to accept it. And therefore, you have to adapt on their needs. And as soon as you adapt and meet their expectations, I think there is, like I said, from a growth perspective, no limit, from our side. And this is for us, of course, we are in the US, or we have a presence in the US for a few years right now, but we are still at the very beginning. We made the right steps. We are on the right direction, and now we are, ready to grow.
So on that note, would you say that if you're satisfying your customers and just providing the proper service that they're expecting, that your American customers are quite loyal?
Yes, that's what I would say. That's what I would say. But I think that's not solely a thing you can recognize in the US. I think that's quite obvious. Yeah. As soon as you treat your customers well, as soon as you give them that service, as soon as you offer them a USP, so to speak, compared to your competitors, why should they change, so to speak, or change their supplier? Of course, there are up and downs, but and there will be problems. But at the end of the day, there needs to be a mutual trust, And if there is a problem, we need to fix it together, And I think that is very, very important, and that takes time to create or transfer that trust towards the customer. But as soon as there is the mutual trust, in my opinion, the US customer are very loyal.
But they still keep you on your toes.
Here you go. Won't get boring. Yeah.
Good, good.
Won't
So
get
let's
boring.
talk about the timeline a little bit, because you said you came to the US in 2021, right? Now fast forward to 2026, the turnaround, and now you're satisfied, you're happy with the performance.
Yeah.
Obviously, it feels probably when you're in it like an eternity. But when you look at the grand scheme of things, it's pretty short window, right? If you say you came in 2021, you spent a whole year in US, looking at 2022, and then it only, quote unquote, took you 4 years to get to a point, or maybe even shorter than that, where you say, okay, even from a financial standpoint, now as the head of finance for the entire group, you're not that concerned about the US subsidiary.
Honestly speaking, I was under the impression that we can have better results earlier, because for my understanding, I think I know that our business model works out, and I was under the impression before I went over, well, it's the product makes sense, there is a return on investment, please go ahead. But I honestly think it takes time, on the one hand, like I said, to create the trust towards the customers, to establish a customer base, to establish a distributor or a dealer base. And on the other hand, what is, in my opinion, a huge factor in the US are the employees. And that is the acquisition of employees, on how you step towards them, on how you, and that's very important for us. I think only with long-term employees you can reach your goals, and you can grow. Without employees, we couldn't do any business, and that's very, very important for us as well. We had a few ups and downs, of course, but a very, very important is that it takes time. It takes time to find the right people. It takes time to create relationships with suppliers and with customers. I think you need to overcome the first years, until you get profitable. And you have to expect maybe 1 or 2 or even more years where you are not super profitable, but you have to overcome these times.
So let's talk about employees for
Yeah.
a minute. How many employees do you guys have globally, and how many do you have in the US?
Globally, we have, I would say, 620 employees, and in the US, we have 20.
Okay, and maybe about the business model in general. So all the manufacturing happens in Germany, and then in the US you have a sales office?
We have a sales and service office. So what we are offering, or what we are doing in the US, is we have our own accounting department there. We have a general manager there. We have a project management, because we differentiate between we have 2 product lines, our temporary products, which are our serial products, and we have our, what I mentioned before, or when we started our conversation, our individual or customized products, and we are talking about higher volume projects, yeah, and therefore we have a project management department for that. We have a service department, we have service technicians, sales department, we have an own warehouse there, because this is, yeah, once again, meet the customer expectations. We need to have the spare parts in the US, because otherwise it wouldn't be a benefit for them, for our customers, if we always would need to send them out of Germany. That wouldn't, that doesn't make sense. And that's what we are having over in the US. Yeah.
From a geographic
Yeah.
standpoint, are there, with your American customers, do you see any specific needs or specific interests in certain type of products that you may not be selling in Europe as much? Is it because you said high volume type of work? Do you see larger orders or different orders? What's the makeup usually of the American business model as you're just looking at it here? Maybe compare that to Germany and the rest of Europe.
I would say it, in this case, the bigger the better for the US. It it really is the case, yeah, because this is the biggest market for our biggest products, yeah. Well, like I said, for the cabins where you can go up to 1,200 feet, yeah, and I would say it's 3.2 tons. This is the biggest market for these products. And yeah, we have other products as well. But like I said, I think the market introduction takes time. And I think especially in the US, once again, you need to create trust towards new products. And they need to see that it works out. They need to test it. They need to try it. Yeah. But as soon as there is an understanding and there is a mutual trust, that's the next thing. We brought our smaller products into the market as well, where we are pretty successful.
So maybe then from a business plan perspective,
Yeah.
it sounds like there's still a lot of opportunity
Yeah.
for GEDA in the US to not only expand the product profile, but really also growth in general as it relates to sales.
Yeah, absolutely. And this is what we are constantly trying to do, is implementing or gathering or having new relationships with potential dealers or potential distributors. And I think that's the goal for us. We want to create, yeah, a trust. And as of now, we are in a fairly good position. Yeah, and that's in my opinion the the route to grow. Of course, with the more sales we are generating, or the more turnover we are generating over here in the US, the more elevators are out there in the field. Of course, we need to increase our spare parts availability to meet the expectations or the requirements from our customers. Yeah, this is of course something we need to consider, and this is something we are considering.
Okay, and then maybe obviously you're the head of finance, so in terms of numbers, and of course as much as you feel comfortable sharing, but from a percentage standpoint, if you're looking
Yeah,
at the global revenue of the group or global
yeah,
turnover of the group,
yeah.
how important is the US market?
Like I said, since we are, yeah, mainly in business since 2021 after the restructuring, I think we also, yeah, set up a new business case in the US, or outlined a new business strategy in the US, where we really focused on distributors. Right now, we are at a percentage of 15% is coming out of the US.
Which is pretty significant with
It
quote
is.
unquote only 20 employees, right?
And
And
I think what is yeah, important to say is that even despite the tariffs, yeah, I think the imposing tariffs was not a huge deal breaker for us. Of course, it postponed just a few projects, but the ability to invest, or the willingness to invest out of the US or from the US customers, that was no difference. Just to give you an example, from 2024 to 2025, we had an increase in turnover of about 55%
in the
in the
US,
just in the US, just in the US. Yeah.
And then maybe also because you have trusted relationships with your customers that tend to be loyal through good times as well as bad times. When you think about global economies, it was probably an easier discussion to have with them because they knew that you were impacted by the tariffs, so to
Yeah.
speak. But that's just like I tell clients, that's just a new reality we've been finding ourselves in. So as long as businesses can work it out amongst themselves, the projects won't stop, right?
Well, I think, and this is our philosophy as well here in Europe for GEDA worldwide, is we need to be as flexible as possible. I think we had a few crises just recently. We had COVID, we had the Russia, Ukraine, USA, Iran, and there will be many more, in my opinion. Yeah, and I think
That's for sure.
it's not enough to talk ourselves or winding ourselves from crisis to crisis. Yeah, we need to be as flexible as possible, and with as many partners as possible. And there will be a give and take, and there will always be a route to grow and a route to grow. Yeah.
Then maybe on the business decision side, because obviously there are companies from Europe that say, yes, we want to work with distributors in the US because we acknowledge that the market is just from a geographic standpoint so large. And you said it early on, it's a continent. But then there's other companies that want to sell directly to the customers. What made you guys think that the majority distribution channels are maybe a better fit at this stage?
I think it was for us, it was kind of a no-brainer because we know that it is a proven business model. It is the GEDA philosophy. It is the GEDA business model. We rolled out that business model worldwide. So, and we know that it works. And at the end of the day, if there is a partnership and business is about making money, it's not a secret.
Not a
So
charity?
no,
Not yet.
not
Not
really.
yet.
And therefore everybody needs to make money. Yeah. So we need to treat our distributors, our customers, very fair, because they want to make money as well, and they should make money as well. Yeah. So in my opinion, if everybody benefits out of a relationship, I think once again that's a no-brainer. And for us, of course, the global or the yeah the simple in the US, how big the US is doesn't make sense, and it wouldn't make sense for us to simply serve the market out of Houston, because then it is not a huge difference if we send some things over from Germany to New York. Yeah, because it's not the same distance, but it's almost the same distance. Yeah, then there is no benefit for potential customers, for example, in New York. But as soon as we have a distributor near New York, they're benefiting out of it. And that's, I think fairly simple and logical strategy.
What do you tell companies then who say, but I'm losing out on my margins because I also have to cut in the distributor? Can you, or are you guys selling to the US market with a different markup than other areas? What's kind of the pricing strategy? Or is it one-to-one, whatever your customers in Germany are paying? That's also what the American customers, obviously currency adjustments, of course, but what's the overall pricing strategy there?
We have the same pricing strategy throughout the world, because just imagine we have bigger projects where the GC is coming out of the US, and their colleagues are sitting, for example, in the UK. One company or one GC or is requesting a price or a quote from the headquarter, and one is requesting a price or a quote from the subsidiary. So therefore, we need to be transparent, and otherwise, we do not really create credibility if we act with different pricing. And like I said, we want to treat our customers equally. We want to be transparent. We try to be as transparent as possible also with the tariffs, and simply carve out that we do not want to make money out of it, or we want to we want to benefit out of it. It's we we want to be loyal to our customers, and want to therefore be as transparent as possible. And this is, I think, not only a phenomena in the US, but this is a worldwide. Everybody likes to see that.
So maybe let's switch gears and talk a little bit about management. You've already mentioned employees, but in your role as general manager, obviously the strategy back then was, okay, let's send somebody over from Germany, turn the ship around, and set it up for success in the future from the mothership, so to speak. How do you guys approach management and management structures in the US right now? Are you still going with, we need somebody from Germany as the general manager in the US, directly report to Germany? Or is there more independence now? And maybe how do you look at it based on your experience and the experience that the company has made in the US in the past? How important that maybe oversight is from Europe, from Germany, but then also a certain level of independence in the US to let the Americans do what the Americans are good at?
Yeah, I think it's, to answer your first question, we currently have American management over in Houston in the US, and it works out definitely fine. Absolutely. I think very, very important is, and one of the most important things is to find a person in that role who is very, very loyal. I think that's one of the most important things, because I have a few contacts who tried to open a business in the US and lay it into the hands of a US American person, because that person knows the market, knows the mentality, and it didn't work out that well. Because solely trusting in one person is very, very dangerous. For us now, knowing that a certain person is with the company for years right now, is a young and ambitious person, absolutely. We gave the trust. The trust is definitely paid back, so to speak. Of course, we have meetings, we have discussions. We, as a headquarter or as a mother company, need to know what's going on in the US, what's going on in the subsidiary. We need to do our consolidated financials. Our tax authority is asking about subsidiaries, of course, because you could shift financial income. What we don't do, obviously, but it is always a potential thing to look at for financial or tax authorities. Therefore, we need to 100% understand and 100% know what is going on in the US subsidiary. And therefore, I think we had a very, very solid and a very, very good strategy, because we want to create relationships between the colleagues here in the headquarters and the colleagues in the US. And it's, I think, indispensable to see us as one team. And that takes a little bit of time. That takes a little bit of time, because we are, it's quite a distance. We have the time change, but we are sending over employees from Europe to the US and the other way around. We are trying to get the US customers into our headquarters, that they see. We want to, like I said, create the trust. We want to show them the manufacturing, how we are doing it, and I think that's part of a success story.
Well, then maybe let's talk about some of the competition in the market, because obviously you're also not the only ones, or at least I expect that there's some competition in the US market as well in your line of business. How do you handle that? How do you maybe how does GEDA set itself apart from competitors in the US market? What's the overall strategy there?
Getting in front of the customers. I mean, I think that is very, very important for us. Our salespeople are quite often on the road. We want to show their faces, or they want to show their faces in front of the customers. This creates the trust. And like I said, convincing them of the product is one thing, but having a relationship is, in my opinion, very, very important in the US. And that is pretty interesting. Yeah, that over here in Germany or in Europe, the golf events are not the big thing. Yeah, we're talking about compliance and things like that, and it might be expected in the US. And in the US, it could be part of the business.
Well, obviously, I have to pick up on the compliance aspects and maybe also the regulatory aspects, because your products, your machinery obviously has to comply with standards in the US that might sometimes be different from standards in the European Union or in Germany or in other parts of the world. How are you guys adapting to it? Obviously, I know you're heavily investing in R&D as
Yeah.
well in Germany, but how has that experience shaped the product placement in the US market when you're thinking about certifications, regulatory aspects?
Very, very different. Yeah, it's a different normative perspective. It's a different certification. So therefore, what we did, every single product of ours is 100% USA certified, so UL labeled, meaning that every single cable within an elevator needs to be UL certified. UL, that's the certification of the USA. So it's quite an effort. It is quite an effort. Of course, you can argue with it. I don't know how other competitors are dealing with it, but we are very, very proud that our products are 100% certified. Dealing with competitors, we do not really have a competitor directly out of the US, meaning manufacturing in the US. We have our worldwide competitors. Of course, we know each other, and I think that is part of the game. It is really part of the game.
Well, you already mentioned that you've witnessed or seen other European companies trying to expand to the US market, try to make it in the US. And just based on what you've seen also during your time in the US, I know that you've been very active, of course, also in the community and still today are. What do you see that other companies, or what type of mistakes are you seeing other European companies make as they expand or try to grow in the US?
I personally think that maybe companies they step out of the market too early. That is, in my opinion, one thing. I personally think that because everybody knows that there is potential for certain products or services in the US, because the US is the biggest economy in the world, of course. Yeah. So, but you need to be prepared when you want to step over to the US, because there is a different tax system. And it's not very similar with regards to what we are having here in Europe. And of course, a huge difference is the legal perspective. Yeah. And I think that's, you are knowing best. And that's how we came together, actually, in a certain case. But that's a different animal, really. The legal perspective, you have to be very, very careful, because you can get sued very, very fast. Yeah. And in my opinion, underestimating the differences, on the one hand, from the whole system, meaning the tax system, meaning the legal system, being under the impression that this is the right way and we do not need to adapt, there is a potential to fail. Yeah. And these are my thoughts on it.
So acknowledging the differences, but then also perseverance and grit to make it through the maybe sometimes not so good times.
Yeah.
Well, I think that's a good point now to get to the next segment of the show, which is the core four.
Up next, the core four.
Which again are the same four questions that I ask every guest on every episode. And I'm looking forward to your answers as well. So you're ready for the core four?
Ready when you are.
Number one, challenges. So what are the biggest challenges GEDA has faced in the US market, and how have you tackled
It is not a GEDA specific challenge. In my opinion, it is a US challenge, like I said, adapting towards the US behavior or the US system. Yeah. Meaning about cultural differences, meaning expectations from customers and treatment of employees. How do you convince people of being long-term employees, entering a long-term relationship? I think these are the biggest challenges, and like I said, it takes time to find the right team, the right people, and to find the right customers, the right dealers, the right distributors. That simply takes time, and that is of course a challenge.
And from challenges, usually there come some lessons learned, which is the second of the core four. So with the knowledge you have now, and if you were in a position that you could go back in time, what would GEDA or also you, based on the experiences you've made in the US, do differently regarding the US market?
I personally think from the time when I was over there, I think we had a pretty solid and good understanding. I would also recommend people who are, or companies who are interested in investing in the US, in showing a footprint in the US, getting some input or expertise from experts. Yeah. And there are a lot of, I would say, communities, organizations who are offering, on how to enter markets. I heard that there is a certain book on the market as well, on how to enter the US market. Taking these advices is, in my opinion, very, very helpful, because the people heard a lot of stories, they experienced a lot of stories. So that is my recommendation, and a kind of a lessons learned.
Obviously, I appreciate the shout out. But no, moving on to the brighter things, let's talk about the future outlook. What's GEDA's outlook, or maybe you want to call it a vision for growth in the US market?
Well, I would say the outlook is very, very positive. We are really looking forward in increasing the sales, increasing the business, the number of customers in the US, because like you said, the US is huge. And the US market is, especially for our products, I told you, one of the most important markets, because the wages and the labor costs are pretty high, and therefore, in that case, shooting for the stars.
You might hit the moon, I think that's all I got. And then let's close out the core four with the fourth question, success factors. You obviously mentioned a few already, but what do you think that really sets successful European companies here in the US apart from the not so successful ones that never really reach their full potential in the US market?
Long-term relationships in all kind of views, with suppliers, with attorneys, with CPAs on the one hand, on the other hand, with customers, with employees. I think this is key for success, in my opinion.
We're all in the relationship business, right? One way or another.
That's right.
So that closes out the core four and brings us to the next segment of the show, which is our rapid fire, this or that.
And now, rapid fire, this or that.
I'll ask you 6 questions, 2 answer choices. You can only pick one.
Yes.
You ready?
Ready when you are again.
Rapid fire, here we go. Asbach-Bäumenheim or Houston?
Ooh, that's a tough one. Ooh, that's a tough one. Houston in the winter, Asbach-Bäumenheim in the summer.
What winter in Houston? That's the question.
That's why I mentioned it. We have winter in Asbach-Bäumenheim, but there is no real winter in in Houston.
Well, speaking of winter, then Galveston or Saalbach-Hinterglemm?
Since only my wife is a huge skier, I would choose Galveston.
Houston Texans or Bayern Munich?
Or Bayern Munich.
That was a little too fast.
That was a little too fast, but there is a connection to both teams, of
That's right.
course. But you know best. I see the jersey in the back of your office. Well, soccer is the most popular sport in Germany, even if it was a sad day yesterday
Yeah.
when Germany got kicked out of the FIFA World.
Fortunately. Let's move on. Let's not.
Please go ahead.
Yeah. Bavaria or Texas?
Bavaria in the summer, Texas in the winter.
EV or combustion engine?
Combustion engine.
And I think the last one will be easy. Sales or finance?
Finance.
Took you a little longer to
But
answer this one.
but the thing is, you need everything. Yeah, you need to have sales in order to have finance, and without finance, there is no sales. So I see everything as important as the other sector. I think it needs to go along with each other.
That closes out the rapid fire section and brings us to the final segment of the show.
Yes.
And one thing that I'm always curious about, other than maybe some experts you had already mentioned, but what partnerships or collaborations have been key to GEDA's success in the US?
I think at the very beginning, partnerships who offer certain services. I think from a legal perspective, from a tax perspective, from an insurance perspective, and these people, in my opinion, they need to understand the difference between Europe and the US very well. Yeah, because as soon as you enter the US market, or as soon as you are present there, you do not 100% understand the behavior and the US system. So therefore, I think this is very, very important to set the foundation for success. Of course, then partnerships, and I call it partnerships with employees, and of course the partnerships, like I said earlier, with customers and with distributors.
So maybe then I have to ask on a personal note, what were your first impressions of doing business in America? Did you personally experience like any culture shock moments? Because I don't want to say they threw you in the cold water, right? But you hadn't really spent an extensive amount of time in the US other than visiting. And then you come over here and run the show as the general manager. But anything that really stood out to you?
The cultural difference is massive in my opinion, and that's what I said at the very beginning, that of course the Europeans often think, well, the Americans are thinking the same way because we look pretty similar. But at the end of the day, it is a different continent, and like I said, the behavior is a bit different, and it's not better or worse, definitely not. It's just different, and very, very important. If you're coming to the US, you need to adapt to a certain extent, but I think you need to still try to implement the company's philosophy in the best way possible.
So then if you had to describe American business culture in 3 ways, or maybe in 3 words, what would they be?
Trust, relationship, quality.
Why do you pick those 3?
Because that's what I experienced, and like I said, how we are handling it, that we want to be present in front of our customers, that because they need to do an investment, you need to create trust, and they typically are having trust into a salesperson. Yeah, of course, every salesperson is telling the people that the quality of a product of their company is outstanding. Yeah,
World class.
world class. But I think creating trust in this case is very, very important. As soon as you create trust, and of course the quality is solid and is good in a product. With these two factors, you can create a relationship, and I think this is, the foundation for long-term success, in my opinion, in the US. And this is not only on the customer side. This is of course on a service or a supplier side. Of course, if I'm taking you, if I'm looking for an attorney, I need to find an attorney who I'm trusted in. Of course, the quality needs to be good
Arguably.
/ very good, yeah, and then a relationship arises. Same thing with employees and people in general. There needs to be a trust, because without trust, nobody. I would never hire a person. On the other hand, a person would never enter an employment with an employer. Yeah. As soon as the quality works out for both sides, money, paycheck, the right time, quality of work from the people, then we have a long-term relationship. And these are my 3 key factors in the US.
Of course, other than your Texas accent, have you picked up any American habits or things, experiences, overall just behavior since you spent your time in Texas and then brought it back to Germany? Anything that sticks?
Texas t-shirts. That's something. But I think from a behavioral perspective, not really, because on the other hand, you have to adapt back as soon as you're in Germany, or as soon as you are in Europe again.
So then what trends, when you're just looking at your industry and niche market, what trends do you see shaping the industry? Maybe worldwide, maybe in the US, but over the next few years, obviously people start to get worried a little bit. They're always worried about the future, but maybe now more than ever. But you already said the outlook is quite positive for the US market, but any specific trends that GEDA is focusing on?
Yes, it is. I think you really need to consider AI and automation. I think you need to use it fairly carefully, but AI would be horrible to simply neglect it. Yeah. On the other hand, I think it's digitalization, what we are offering and what our strategy is. We want to create or give our customers a USP compared to our competitors. So that's why, just to give an example, we invented GEDA Central. GEDA Central is an online platform for customers. So if we are producing outside elevators, you anchor them into the building, so forces are getting into the building. So we have a calculator. It's an online tool where our customer can type in all the values, and the tool spits out the anchoring forces. Yeah. Previously, they had to step towards us, time change, time difference. We had to go through it and send it back. So it's way more convenient for everybody. We have tutorials, we have training videos on our GEDA Academy. It's a part of GEDA Central. We have the machine management. So, for example, in our view, for example, it's gonna be a pay-per-use kind of thing. Also with elevators on a construction site, the plumber is using it, and he checks in with his card. So if the elevator is damaged, I know who was it. Yeah, at the end of the day. If it's not paid, I can shut down the elevator. And of course, I can remote in, and like I said, expectations of customers is to be as flexible as possible and to be as fast as possible. Remote in our diagnostic system to check what's wrong with the elevator. The door is open, please close the door. And I do not need to send out a service tech and charge the customer, I don't know, thousands of bucks. And this is, in our opinion, the the goal for the future always being a step ahead. Yeah. And of course, not resting because that would hurt tremendously.
Well, then maybe also looking at you personally, having had the experience in the US, is there something that you really love about doing business in the US that's a bit different from Europe, other than
I
the golfing?
Other than the golfing, I personally think, well, I have a kind of a fable for the US, of course, because I used to live there for 1 year, and I have very, very good relationships and good contacts in the US, and therefore it's always always a pleasure coming over and meeting the people, yeah, who you're doing business with, and maybe here and there from a business partner, some friendships arise. Yeah, and that's yeah, very, very neat to see.
Well, if somebody in our audience wants to become your friend and really says, "Oh my God, this story is remarkable. I want to learn more. I
Yeah,
want to get in touch with
yeah.
Stefan," how can they connect with you? How can they reach out?
LinkedIn,
What's the best way? LinkedIn.
LinkedIn. Yeah,
So we'll obviously insert your LinkedIn profile
please.
in the show notes so that
Yep.
people can reach out to you and get to the right channels. Do you have a personal quote or motto that guides you in business and life?
I personally think it's very, very important that yeah, people and also business people are staying on the ground. Yeah, and yeah, I think that one of the most important things, really, for me.
And well, then obviously I know you're a family man, but what else is something that currently excites you, interests you in life? Anything you personally enjoy right now, like building a house?
For example, yeah, we're building a house currently, and we're really looking forward in moving in. Yeah, I think as soon as you can see what you planned first, you are a bit excited. And my wife told me as well. Well, I'm really excited how it's gonna look like. I hope we didn't do anything wrong, but yeah, now we are really looking forward, and that's a huge project, and that yeah, for years. And yeah, this is one personal thing I am currently working on.
Very exciting, very exciting. But well, of course, you're talking to a lawyer, so I cannot let you go without the catch-all at the very end. Anything else you'd like to share with the audience? Anything else that we may have missed as part of this discussion?
Think I tried to bring over everything as honest or as honestly as possible. If there is anything, please feel free to reach out to me, and I'm more than happy to enter a conversation with you guys.
Stefan, thank you very much for joining us today on the show. Obviously, I wish you, your family, and GEDA, the group in Germany, as well as the subsidiary, nothing but the best for the future. Thank you for your time, your insights, your knowledge, your experiences was a lot of fun, as always. And I hope we can do that again in the future.
Same to you, Manny, and thank you very much for the invitation.
Thank you. That's the show for today. Wait. Before you go, if you enjoyed this episode, please make sure to subscribe so that you don't miss the next one. And if you have thoughts, questions, or topics you'd like me to cover, drop a comment. I read every single one. If you're serious about entering or scaling in the US market, head over to masteringmarketentry.com or mannyschönhuber.com for more insights and resources. Thanks for listening, and until next time, go out there and make it big in America.